Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Off Axis Podcast, where we talk entertainment, acrobatics, business, entrepreneurship, fitness, and more. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you guys want to support, please share with your friends. Now, let's jump into the podcast.
We're starting now? We're on?
We are on.
Okay, I didn't know. Did you ever see that? Are you a Norm Macdonald fan? Do you know Norm Macdonald?
I've heard of him.
He's good friends with David Spade and like all those other comedians. He just died like not too long ago, but he did a thing where he invited people on his podcast.
Yeah.
And it was all self-produced, so he would just tell people they were going to commercial and then just lie to them, and they would like take their hats off and like be drying off. He's like completely lying. There's no commercials. It was just his own thing.
Dude, that's funny.
Yeah, he was just screwing with people.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was like the ultimate troll. So.
What was his name again?
Norm Macdonald.
Norm Macdonald. Sweet.
One of the best movies ever, Dirty Work.
Dirty Work?
From the 90s. It's one of my favorite movies ever, yeah. Real deadpan humor. He did the news on Saturday Night Live for years, like he called it the fake news. He's really good.
Yeah?
One of my favorites ever. Yeah. But
Great.
thanks for having me on.
Yeah. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Off Axis Podcast. Today's guest is TJ Hill. He's a magician. He's performing next to us at the Firefighters Fair here in Vero Beach, Florida. How you doing, TJ?
How'd you say that?
Vero? Vero?
You got an immediate accent. That was cool.
Vero is...
Maybe I've been saying it wrong.
Oh, I don't know how to announce it. That's why I say it every time I walk out there, I say, "What's up, Florida?"
Yeah, right.
Because I was like, is it Vero? Is it Veto?
I don't know.
Is it Hispanic? Or
I haven't been saying it with an accent, but I just say Vero Beach. But you might be right. It does have a...
Vero? I don't know who named the city. I don't know where the rules are for that one. That's why I was like, I'm just going to do Florida so I don't get made fun of for saying it wrong.
Right.
So...
And when I travel, too, I always try to, like, I don't know if you do this, but... I'll always talk to like whoever the locals are, and I'll say, "How do you say this name?" I just want to make sure I don't embarrass myself on stage. Yeah. So it's funny.
Yeah. So how'd you get this show? Do you live by here?
No, not at all. I'm based out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Pittsburgh.
Go Steelers.
You said you've been doing this one for a couple years, though, right?
Yeah. This is my third year here at the Firefighters Fair, but and for those people who aren't familiar, they call it the Firefighters Fair just because. It's all run by the firefighters of Indian River County here in Florida, so that's kind of how they get that name. But this is my third year here. My first year, they just had me do what I call strolling magic or close-up magic. So I strolled the grounds and just like freaked people out, kind of like I got to do some stuff for you guys the other day.
Yeah,
hopefully you
awesome.
were amazed. Thank you. But then last year they had me do my stand-up show, and then this is my third year here doing stand-up as well. It's hard to. Every time I'm performing, though, it's hard to keep my eyes off of you guys when I'm trying to set up my show, because you guys are awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
It's incredible.
Yeah, I must say the Firefighters Fair is probably my favorite so far.
Yeah.
It has to do with the firefighters running the whole fair themselves, and just so many, like, all the employees are, like, extremely competent because they're all firefighters.
Right.
And on top of that, they gave us a giant open-air arena with perfect brand-new concrete floor, it seems like, and a ceiling. And it's just like the perfect setup for us because we're always stuck on like asphalt or dirt. We were on like sandy dirt before this. It was a nightmare. There's just like every day you get home and there's like dirt in your ears and your eyes and stuff. And
yeah, it is a nice room, and you don't have to worry about like rain or weather or anything. And it actually works out to your benefit if the weather's not the best, because everyone comes underneath that pavilion to watch. And that's where the shows are. So and they're really accommodating. I mean, ever since I've been doing this fair, I show up. And they're like, "You need anything? You need us to help you bring stuff in? We'll help you anchor everything down." And I'm like, I never get this much help. It's like having, the people that hire you are like your roadies or something. It's great.
Yeah. You're in Florida when there's just lizards crawling all around us right now.
Where?
Right there on the thing. Look at that guy.
Oh, he is. He's looking right at. Look at his little gullet.
Oh, that's crazy.
You don't get them in Vegas?
Not like that. So for everyone watching, we're at our Airbnb in Fort Pierce, Florida right now. There's iguanas and like lizards and stuff all over the place here. It's crazy.
Last night, this kid, this must be like a Florida thing. This kid just comes up with a random chameleon on his arm. If that's for me, I'm not here.
It's my girlfriend.
If he just came up with a random chameleon on his arm, this gigantic chameleon, and he was like, "Here, want to hold him?" I'm like, "No." And I'm like, "I'm not holding anything. I'm from Pennsylvania. This is weird." And they're like, "What's normal down here? We just go in the woods and like catch lizards and chameleons at night." Yeah, some weird people here in Florida.
Yeah, I know, right? Everyone's maybe part lizard or something.
Yeah, I love it though. Honestly, I haven't seen. So I'm on the road like 200 days a year, and honestly, I don't think I've seen a cloud since I've been here. Have you? It's like gorgeous.
Not really actually. It's like perfect weather, like perfect beach breeze, like every single day here.
Yeah,
makes me want to move to Florida. Honestly,
I know.
It's kind of like California, but
yeah,
better in my
but better. Right. No, I love it.
It's crazy taxes.
Yeah, and well, in Pennsylvania, we get, especially Western Pennsylvania, I think we're rated like, I love Pittsburgh, and I love where I'm from. I want to be like the welcome wagon for Pittsburgh. It's a beautiful city, and that's where I got my start. That's where I started doing shows there before I started going on tour. And it just sometimes sucks to go back home because we're rated, I think, #2 in most cloudiest, like the cloudiest days in the country.
Really? It's like that bad compared to like Washington and stuff? It's up there?
Yeah, it's up there.
Oh, I had
like,
no idea.
Days like today and yesterday, it's like every day. For those people who have not been to Florida, at this time of year, it's the most incredible weather you could possibly ask for. And we might, even in July and August, our best months, we might get one of these days every other week.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, we were going to go down, me and Dylan were going to go down to the Keys after this, but there was wildfires like today and yesterday. They're like really bad and they're burning up the Keys.
Why did I not know about this?
I don't know. I just found out about it when I was Googling to see which places to go to the Keys. I'm like, wait, the Keys is on fire right now?
Oh my God. Yeah, sometimes when I'm on the road, I honestly, I don't watch cable. I just like sit on YouTube or something and I'm like, I feel like I'm disconnected sometimes from the world. So I had no clue that was going on.
Yeah, I definitely don't watch any cable, that's for sure.
Right.
It's all over my feed. Well, I guess it's because I Googled it.
Right.
I've been I wanted to go to the Florida Keys. I've never been there before. It seems like such a, like just like a long bridge to all these different islands and stuff.
Yeah.
It seems so cool.
Yeah.
But
there's I was telling you a couple friends of mine who are also entertainers that she goes by Lady Houdini. Her name's Kristen, and her husband Kevin narrates the show. They do like a water torture escape and everything, and they live in the Florida Keys. And I was going to go visit. I was like, hey, I'll run down and visit you guys. He goes, you realize I'm like 6.5 hours away. He goes, we're even further than Miami, because yeah, it's a good distance.
Dang,
it's a good way.
So how'd you get started in magic?
I started when I was really young. I saw a magic show at a church camp when I was really little. His name was Joey Rosick, and he has since passed away, but he was a local magician from Newcastle, Pennsylvania, about 45 minutes north of Pittsburgh. That's where I'm originally from. And we didn't have any magic shows up there, so I fell in love with it, and I just fell in love with the idea of like not only amazing people, but I just love the idea of almost, I don't want to use the word being in charge, but standing up in front of everyone and captivating everyone like that. I just fell in love with it, Similar to what you do, I'm sure when you see someone, it's not necessarily the concept of, a trick or something like that. It's more just the idea of performing.
Yep.
And that's when I was first bit by the bug. And then I begged my parents to take me to a magic shop, and this was long before the days of internet, so we looked in the yellow pages. I don't know if anyone knows what the yellow pages are, but there was a magic shop in Pittsburgh, and it was about 45 minutes to an hour away. They drove me there. I got a magic trick, a little tiny trick. It was called nickels to dimes, and I would gather my family around and perform for them, and then every week they would bring me down, get a new magic trick. And then eventually, in my junior high school years, it became more of an art. I started to respect more of the art of the sleight of hand, and I started getting more involved with the books and the VHS tapes and all the instructional tutorials, and that's when I started doing card magic, coin magic, that sort of thing, and started honing a show. And and then when I was 19, I moved to the city, and I got a job at the magic shop that I shopped at my whole life. So I lived above the shop, and I worked downstairs at the shop. Yeah, and it didn't pay the best money, but what was great about it was a springboard for a career, because you're hired as an independent contractor, so you're required to bring your own supplies. So it was like the first experience of like bringing my own case somewhere, and basically my job was to learn magic and demonstrate magic and sell magic to everyone who came in the shop. So, and then you meet all the people in town, all the different magicians, and someone would throw you a bone here or there, and start doing local shows, and then it built into a career that I never thought would it would turn into. I have 200 days on the road now, and get to meet nice people like yourself and see some amazing shows.
That's crazy. I always say there's nothing better than being on stage and either impressing the crowd or making them laugh. Like, one of my favorite things is perfecting our comedy bits that are in the show. So like when we get like an okay laugh or something, I'll like, okay, let's tweak this a little bit. Let's have you walk up the teeter board and then it slowly goes up there and then you jump off or something.
Yeah. Well,
so
you feed off of it.
Yeah.
You feed off of it. And it really becomes a drug. And at this point, I don't want to say I'm lazy, but I'm just on the road so much. I don't learn as much new technique as I used to. But now that's where I get my high, is like creating, like you said, like thinking about, what if I were to pause a beat here to get a laugh? Or what if I were to say this here? Let's see how that works. And we got to be crazy to keep doing this, though, over and over, because when you get nothing and you go into like fight or flight mode, that kind of gives you the drive, though, to like change something or to tweak something and to just get that laugh where you need it. And, you know, some crowds are better than others, but I really do like the comedy aspect of it, too. And it's funny, I get people after the show, too, they'll come up and they'll go, I didn't realize, I thought you were just a magician. I didn't know you were a comedian. And I'm thinking, well, you kind of have to put some humor in the show, or else it becomes less interactive. You know, it has to be, you know. So I use a lot of participation in the show, and, you know, I try to make it as fun. Amazing for the adults, so they're walking away going, how in the world did he do that? But fun enough and silly enough where the kids are all enjoying it, too. So.
Yeah. You were saying 200 days a year on the road. That's insane. I think we do like half of that. Well, we're like triple booked it sometimes, but from my perspective, I'm like, okay, well, at least I don't have to perform the show, but you are your show, so you can't replace TJ Hill.
Yeah.
How is it being on the road pretty much all year?
I thought it would be really cool. It's like a be careful what you wish for thing.
Yeah.
Because this is what I've always dreamed of. I mean, I told my guidance counselor when I was 17 I was going to be a professional magician. No.
Depends on where you are, too, right?
Yeah.
If you're in Florida, nice beaches and stuff, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
But if you're in, I don't want to call it any place, but say you're in the middle of the desert or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And
it might not be the greatest.
Yeah, and I do love it, and I love performing. But just like anything, you know, when the key is I have to make the show, and I'm sure you can relate to this. You have to make the show to the audience like it's the first time you've ever done it, ever.
Yeah.
Every time. So every single time, to turn it on to 11 every single time and do it like that becomes emotionally exhausting. Physically exhausting, but more so for me. More physically for you probably, but emotionally for me, because it's so interactive and all eyes are on me for the full length of the show. So I use the word hyper-focus. You have to have complete hyper-focus the whole time, knowing your angles, knowing where people are, knowing, you know, who's giving you the response you want and who's not. But yeah, 200 days is a lot. I didn't think it would turn into this, but, you know, I started with just a couple northern states doing summer jobs and summer fairs. And then eventually I signed with a new agent, David Ugar Productions. And he specializes in fair and festival entertainment and college entertainment. And then we tried doing the South Carolina, Georgia convention, and it went really well. So we added some spring and fall dates, and then we added Florida the year after that, and then a lot of the fairs rebooked. So that's how I ended up with all these dates. So
interesting.
Yeah.
So you get a lot of repeat bookings.
Yeah, I tried. Well, what's nice about what I do is, you know, in the fair world, and you probably know this, like, they switch up entertainment frequently.
Yep.
So they have you 1 year, 2 years, and they switch it up. Well, with what I do, I have the option to do the close-up magic too. So a lot of times if I've done my stand-up show for a couple of years, I'll say, hey, why don't you bring me in next year to just stroll the grounds and kind of get people laughing and do like small groups of people.
Yeah.
So a lot of times my expiration date becomes a little longer than normal because of that. So I can do 3, 4, sometimes 5 years at a fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't get really any. We only have one rebooking this year, but our schedule's still full. So.
Yeah. Well, you guys are so unique in what you do, and it's so high energy, and that shows like yours are great, and they'll never be in, like, you're never going to lack work. You guys are always going to be working. I mean, you have one of the best shows I've seen in the entire fair market. You really do.
Thank you.
Yeah, you guys are fantastic. Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, we try. So we film most of our shows, and then we'll go back and watch them after, and then we'll adjust choreography and stuff. Is that something you do to your show?
Well, there are. So I have music and sound effects throughout the show from start to finish, but a lot of the things I do. I take a detour a lot, or I'll, as I say, call an audible a lot, because during the show, if I'm not getting the reaction that I think a certain routine will work, I will steer to something different, or I will cut right to the chase. I'll quit it with the crowd work, because there's a lot of crowd work that I do. I'll look at someone in the audience and I'll try to get a reaction from them or something like that. So if it's not working the way I want it to, I will switch things up, and I'll work on certain routines. And I try to change it up from year to year too, yeah.
Do you, so you have, I don't want to spoil any bits, but you have a wedding ring bit where it disappears, right?
Yeah.
Okay, we can talk about that, yeah?
Yeah, I borrow someone's ring from the audience.
So I saw this and I was like, there's no way this hasn't gone south at least once.
It has, for sure. So it's funny you mentioned that, because at this fair last year, and the more you do routines, it's just like what you do. The more you do something, it turns into muscle memory. You don't even think anymore, Well, before the routine that you saw, I used to do the same exact trick, which I would borrow a ring for someone in the audience, and there's a few little crowd work bits that I do. I'll say, this looks like you won a Super Bowl. This looks like a Super Bowl ring. You need a dimmer switch on here, turn it down, that sort of thing. The ring ends up vanishing. It reappears inside of a box, inside of a box, inside of a box. And the last box, what you saw is just a small little box. They open it up. I hand them back their ring. Well, last year, I had this huge rock of a diamond. Someone let me borrow it. I did the whole routine. I used to do it with a lock on a little... a small little wooden box. It ended up being locked at the end, and I would hand them a set of keys and they would unlock it. Well, I made the mistake of performing the routine, and then when I took the box out at the end, I didn't realize the lock wasn't latched. It wasn't latched all the way. It was just a mistake. Things happen. And I took the box and I tossed it to them in the audience. The box came apart in mid-flight. The ring went one way, the box went the other, everything smacked the concrete and flew all over the place. And at that point, I'm in the middle of a show. Yeah. So I'm like, I don't want to lose a diamond ring, but at the same time, I want to make it look like this might be part of the act, even though kind of screwed at this point. Yeah. So someone luckily spotted the ring after maybe like a minute and a half of like dying comedy banter. I mean, I was like eating shit on stage. I felt horrible. Like I felt horrible, and everyone's just staring at me and they're like, is this part of the show, or is this what? And I tried to make it seem like it was part of the show. Some guy spotted it maybe like 30 yards away laying on the concrete. But if we were out on the grounds in the grass, we probably never would have found the ring. I got lucky because it was on concrete. But we did find the ring. That was a scare, but they did get their ring back, finished the show, everything was fine. But the people that knew the routine, like the firefighters that were watching, they were laughing because they knew that's not how it's supposed to go, but yeah, she got the ring back. Yeah, sometimes you gotta just go with it. Like even earlier at this fair, we were down one person for one of the shows. Yeah. So I was telling you before, our soundtracks are one soundtrack. Yeah. So the soundtrack, we have two halves. Our show's 30 minutes, basically. Mm-hmm. There's a 15-minute section, which has 20 minutes of pre-show before it, and then there's a second section, which is another 15 minutes long. And I put the wrong track in when we replaced someone, and then I went to take it out, but I put in another track that was named the same one, and then I click next on the music, and this old track comes on, and I'm like, what the heck is that? And everyone drops in, and they're like, I don't think this is the right track. And I'm like, wrong track. And I like click, and I press, I'm like, all right, here we go. Yeah. Wrong track again. And I'm like, oh my God, this is what I get for naming like the track like 2025 Off Axis Stunt Show Part 1, Part 2, Part 3. Like, and it's just like 3 minutes of me sitting there like,
panicking, like, oh my God, I gotta find like an old track that has like something similar. So I pulled it from last year, and I was like, I hope this is the same length.
So in the middle of the show, what did you do?
I just started. I was like, guys, this is my fault. It doesn't happen all the time. And I was like, I take full responsibility for this one. I just was like, give me 1 minute. Yeah. And I'm just back there like, oh my God, I gotta find a file. And I'm going through like 2 years of freaking edited soundtracks that all almost look the same. And I'm like, I gotta find one. And I was like, okay, what was the, and I picked out
Wait, during the show? You're going
during the show, I'm going through my files, and I'm like, how can I be in this situation where I'm trying to find a soundtrack that is the same as the one, because there's a lot of different modifications we do, like if one person in the ramps is out, then we have a shorter ramp number. If one person in the in the acrobats is out, then we take out the teeterboard act or something like that. And that's the one I played, was without one of the acts, and then I was like, oh no, I like accidentally saved the track over in like the new name.
Yeah.
And yep.
Well, we talked the other day about how, because I asked, I go, do you use an audio ape or a remote? And you're like, no, it's just one track, start to finish. So how many tracks for the total show do you use?
2. Yeah.
See, that's great. See, like you asked earlier, if I'm ever like switching things up or whatever, and it's like, you know, every routine I do has a new track. So if I need to extend something or shorten something, I can do that. You guys don't have that option.
No. Well, see, here's the thing. The show we did before this in Arizona, I tried to incorporate that. And I had a remote where I could switch the tracks.
Yeah.
And I tried to keep the remote in my pocket, which doesn't work when you're flipping around and stuff, because I accidentally click the next button in the middle of a track. And then also we have this free throw bit where it's like a comedy act, and I always forgot to press the like success button, which is we are the champ.
Right.
And then I would click next. I'm like, oh no, this is too late. And then We Are the Champions would play during the motocross number, and then I was like, man, I think I'm just going to stick to what has worked for us for years and just stay with that.
Yeah, you're better off just because your stuff is so choreographed anyway that like it probably just makes it easier for everyone to just practice, get the choreography right, and just not have to worry about it. Press play and boom, run it through.
The first few days of the show, especially when there's a new person, for them to figure out the beats, it's mainly me directing them. Like, I'll point. If you watch during the show, I'm like pointing and telling them hold for like one beat or something, or if I'm on the trampoline wall or something, I'm physically saying, okay, side flip drop-ins next.
You're
next
saying
up, death scene. Yeah, I'm literally talking through the whole thing, and it's just for a safety thing too, because just in case someone has a brain fart on a trampoline wall, the worst case scenario, and I've been on the stage when someone almost died, someone lands on top of another person on a trampoline, and we almost had someone die in a show, not our show, but a similar show to mine, like 12 years ago or something like that in 2012.
Oh my.
They pancaked each other on the trampoline wall. So even during our acts, anytime I'm on stage, I physically am saying, I'm not saying it loud, but I'm like, all right, Britney's in next. All right, death scene is coming up right here.
Okay, the what scene?
The death scene.
What? Is that a thing?
Yes, the death scene is a thing. So in the trample act, for anyone who's seen our show, we're kind of known for this one.
Yeah.
But I boost Dylan up. He's running on my back.
Yeah.
And then he hits my head, and then I eat shit, and then he eats shit, and then the other person's like, no! And
you don't do this at this fair?
Yes, we do.
I don't know why I'm missing this part.
Yeah,
maybe I'm preparing, getting ready for my show.
It's the very last act, and it's this super serious, like, build up, and then just like drop, and then the beat stops, and then we're just like, no! Yeah, so we call it the death scene.
That's great.
We put a couple, like, that one's called the death scene, but there's other, like, bits where it just goes from, like, because our show's so serious, we like to just break it up every once in a while and just throw in, like, a really horribly, like, placed comedy thing, and it's just, like, so just out of the blue.
I like the thing you do with the participation, and you call someone up, and you do the,
the misdirection bit, basically, where we just misdirect them, like the
jump. You start with jump, and then you start with it.
Say things wrong. There's a few other ways that we have a few different comedy bits. Our bike rider in this show is like very new. Like this is his first show doing it. So I'm not going to confuse him with other stuff. So we're sticking with that act for this one.
Yeah.
But if you come to one of our other shows when we have more of a veteran bike rider that's done a lot of our shows, we'll almost switch up the act every single day if they know them. We have like a free throw act that we do for a comedy. We have we call it the viral moment skit, where basically what we try to do is get all the cameras out for them to film, and I bring an audience member on stage, and we have them pick out the tricks that we do in this show. Even though I'm like, okay, do you want him to do a backflip or a front flip?
Yeah.
And then basically after they pick the 4 tricks from each person lines up the tricks 1, 2, 3, 4, basically. So it's like this cool looking.
So it's still a show
clip.
in the format you want it to be in, sort of, but it's like a choose-your-own-adventure from the audience's perspective.
Yep, basically.
Yeah.
So
cool.
we'll try to switch it up, especially if I notice that, like, if it's more of an intimate fair, and there's like the same people coming to each and every one, then we'll switch up the comedy act quite a bit too.
I like that, and I like that. And this is something a lot of people don't realize too. That's interesting about any show. When you guys come down in the middle of the show, I don't know if it's directly in the middle, but when you bring it down a notch when you do the volunteer and you bring them up and you do the bunny hop or whatever it is over them. Is that what that's called? A bunny hop? Yeah. So there's some comedy, there's some byplay, and you're bringing them down and you're like creating some almost self-deprecation and some humor and everything. And it creates a mood from the audience's perspective, and this is interesting psychology, that the audience, now you're just regular people hanging out, and we're all having fun together. Then you bring it back up and you hit them for the end. Yeah. And then in my opinion, it's cool to come back down again when you do the announcements at the end. You announce the whole, everyone that's there. And that's something I had trouble with at first with my show. Was like, I've always thought it had to start out huge and end huge, and that's not always the case. And especially in the fair market, and when you're performing unless you're like a ticketed act, which I'm not a ticketed act, I'm performing as a free act at the fair, but it's still I'd like to start my show out with a lot of audience interaction and a good introduction. That's not, because what I found, at least other magicians, when you come out and you want this huge spectacle of a magic trick to begin, it's almost too big for the audience. They don't know who you are. They don't know what to expect. They don't know your personality. And I feel like I like to start. So it's almost like a roller coaster ride in any show. Yeah. And it's cool to bring them down and then bring them back up and then bring them back down. And I like that you guys do that in the middle of the show. It's really cool. And I try to do that in my act too. Like, you want to hit them with some really powerful stuff, but then come back down and.
Yeah. So what do you have different versions of your show?
Yeah, well, I could go for a long time with, honestly, with a deck of cards or some coins or anything like that. But as far as the stand-up show goes, I'll try to revamp it every so many years, and from start to finish. I always keep juggling in the act, just because I don't consider myself a juggler per se, but I do a lot of really cool juggling tricks, and it just adds to the, the visual of the show. But I do switch it up, and I have some new routines that I'll do. And like you said, if there's a smaller fair, you get some of the same people that come back all the time. Yeah. They want to see the show again, and that's flattering that they want to see the show again, but you don't want them ruining certain finales or certain bits, yelling things out or yelling out the punchline or whatever. So I'll try to steer a different way. I'll try to do a different routine that they haven't seen. So yeah, I do switch it up, but it takes a while putting an act together. You know that, obviously.
Oh yeah, it does. Yeah. We thought, so we just started doing arena shows last year, where we jumped from 30 minutes to over an hour. Wow. And in my head, I was like, we got this. Our 30 minutes is dialed. We could just throw in some other acts in there. Yeah. And the first show was awkward, to say the least, because I didn't realize how dialed, you don't get rehearsal time when you do these arena shows. You set up and then showtime, basically. And I was like, we had practiced it, but we don't practice all of the connecting bits and all of the comedy and then
transitional stuff.
There was it was not the greatest performance. It was 30 minutes of dialed in perfect routine, and then 30 minutes of meh.
Yeah.
So it ended
fluff and
very
filler.
bad.
Yeah.
So
I can relate to that completely, because when you want to do, you know, a lot of like theater shows or even like school shows or something, they want an hour, 50 minutes, an hour, sometimes an hour and 10. And it's like I'm taking my best stuff and I'm putting it like opener, middle, maybe at the end, and then the rest of the show is filled with this like fluff and filler that's like kind of like you said, meh. And it's hard. It's, you know, an hour doesn't sound like a long time, but when you have to be on, and like I said before, like hyper focus, it's difficult for something always to be funny, always to be amazing, always to be incredible for every single beat of every single moment during a show. You know, even 2 minutes is a long time. When you get a comedian and they do open mic nights, that's usually the first thing they start them out with 2 minutes. 2 minutes sounds like nothing, but you get up there, 2 minutes is a long time on stage.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I've done stand-up comedy before, and it's a different ball game.
It is, when you don't have like any sort of a crutch to fall back on, you know. Yeah.
Yeah. I've always said, like, as soon as I'm done with this, I'm going to stand up. So I have this like giant list of bits that I've been coming in with for the last 8 years.
Yeah.
So anytime I go up and do stand up, I kind of have some stuff to pull from already.
Yeah. That's cool. Yeah, and it's any kind of, I find stand up so interesting because what I do is very similar in a lot of ways, but I do have a crutch. I have a deck of cards on stage, or I have a prop of some sort, you know, but it's all sprinkled in with comedy throughout. But I just find it interesting that you can take a line or a joke, get absolutely nothing. Like nothing. I'm talking like deadpan, no one even snickered. Then take the exact same words and put a pause or a beat or a look here.
Yep.
And it gets hysterical belly laughter, like falling out of their chairs.
Yeah.
And people don't understand that. They think it's just like written, this is the joke, this is, and then, you know, there's also some people that can get away with certain jokes and other people that can't get away with certain jokes. And I love the psychology of that. You know, there's some magicians out there who, they yell at kids on stage, they hit them, they throw them back to their seats, and they get away with it. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
I can't get away with that. It's not my style, you know. But then there's certain things I can say that other people can't say. It's all in the way the audience portrays you as a person on stage. Some people can do self-deprecating humor. Some people can't do that. You know? So it's interesting.
Yeah. You know, that bit that we do in the middle is very much stand-up comedy. Like the other day, we had this kid come on, and I always say, all right, so-and-so has volunteered to risk his life for everyone else's viewing pleasure. And he looks at me, he's like, and I'm like, and he's like, and I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, the crowd isn't laughing at all. And I'm like, I feel like if we just hold this for a while, and we're going like this, and he's going like this at me, and it just kept getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
And after like 5 seconds, it went from awkward to the whole crowd is laughing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's things like that where it's not about what you're saying, it's about how you're reacting, and like your facial expressions can change something.
There's you ever watch comedians in cars getting coffee with Seinfeld?
Yeah, I have.
I forget who he's talking to. It might be Jim Gaffigan or something, but he was telling Jim Gaffigan about a younger comedian, asking him what to do if he's getting the laugh that he wants or something like that. And he kept using the phrase, stay in the bit, which I love. And that's exactly what you just did.
Yeah.
You stay in the bit. If you're getting the laugh you want, if you're receiving from the audience what you want, don't get out of that moment. Stay in it. Stay in it until the laughter starts to subside. Then you can move on. But like you kept shaking your head, yes. If it's getting the laugh. Okay, he's shaking his head, no. Don't get out of that moment. This is the moment you want. That's the sweet spot. That's where you have everyone. Yeah, and it's interesting. You stay in the bit, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you brought a deck of cards. You got a magic trick you could show us?
Well, I am a magician.
Yeah.
That means I'm magish. That's what I do. I make up that word, but that's okay. So, okay, so I have a deck of cards, but this looks like a standard deck of bicycle cards, okay?
Okay.
But now this is going to be, we're going to have to maybe come a little closer to the camera for this, if that's okay?
Yeah.
Is that all right? Because I have on the back of the cards, I drew a little guy.
Okay.
I don't know if they're going to be able to see from far away. You want to scoot up just a hair so we can all get in the picture? So I'm going to show the camera this here, his name is Stickman Sam. And see, he's on every card all the way through. But not only is he on every card, but look at this. Each card is a little different than the one before. So it makes
a lot of drawing.
Yeah. Well, this magic stuff takes years of loneliness and self-denial. So
okay.
Yeah, right? But he's going to do a magic trick for you. And if you flip through, what would be a good spot to make sure that the camera sees this? Because I'm gonna flip and see if the camera can see. If they look close, you can see that he moves. He moves. It makes like a little flip book. See, check this out.
We could zoom that. Oh, okay. Yeah, he's moving.
See how he moves? Yeah.
Oh, he's pulling a rabbit out of that or something?
Well, that's what everyone thinks. You're supposed to pull a rabbit out of a hat when you're a magician. But he only knows one trick. So any card you name, Stickman Sam will find it using his 3 senses. He doesn't have 5. He only has 3. He's just a stickman.
Okay.
So give me a card. Just say one out loud. Any card in the pack.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Ace of spades.
Are you sure about that? Come on. That's so easy to find. Look at that. It's the ace of spades. Look. Maybe it was subconscious and you just looked at that.
That's just my favorite song by Motorhead.
You're right.
Okay.
They do say 9 out of 10 people name the ace of spades. It's probably because it is a Motorhead song. But go ahead and...
a different card?
Yeah, it doesn't really matter, but let's make it random that way.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Ace of clubs.
Ace of clubs.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm going to go through and I'm going to find the ace of clubs in the pack, okay? And I want the people at home to see this too. Okay, so here's the ace of clubs, am I right?
Yep.
Okay, now what we're going to do is I'm going to set the ace of clubs down on the table here, and Sam here is going to try to figure out what card you named. He's going to use his 3 senses. First, his sense of sight, his sense of smell. I'm not a ventriloquist, just a magician. And next, his sense of hearing. So just whisper the card to him. Just say, ace of clubs, Sam.
Ace of clubs, Sam.
Perfect. And check this out. He's going to reach up. He's going to reach up. Take his hat off. He's going to reach inside of his hat. You said he was going to pull a rabbit out. It's not a rabbit. It's a card. And look.
What?
It's
what?
The ace
How?
of clubs. Look at this.
What?
Check it out. Look at this. The ace of clubs. Sam, you are truly unbelievable. Look at this. Perfect match.
What the hell? How's it written on the card?
Sam gets ladies with that trick.
Dude.
Yeah. He gets stick ladies with the triangle dress.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't understand any...
Stickman Sam.
I don't even how you do that, but okay, cool. How long does it take to perfect a magic trick?
Something like this is more about the presentation than anything. There's not a whole ton of sleight of hand and moves for this. But it is an impactful trick and amazing. But some are different than others. You know, to learn something like a card spray, where you spring the cards from hand to hand like Bugs Bunny, or you see in the cartoons.
Yeah.
Depending on how good it eventually looks. I mean, that took me when I was 15 or 16 years old. I learned that. It took me a year and a half of steady practice every day, dropping the cards on the floor, and then, yeah, or even some different sleight of hand moves. I mean, it could take years and years. You can practice forever and not get it the way you want to get it. But it's almost an equal comparison to playing the piano or playing the guitar. You can excel at super high levels, but at first you tell yourself, my fingers won't stretch that far, or just won't, I just can't get this just right. But then eventually you get it once, and it gives you the motivation to kind of keep trying and keep practicing. It's just like learning a trick on a scooter or on a skateboard or rollerblades or, BMX, anything like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it gives you the motivation when you finally get something to keep working at it. So
I see.
It does take time.
Did you ever get into card throwing?
Never. But a friend of mine, Rick Smith Jr., he's from Ohio.
I know who that is.
Do you?
That's the record holder?
Yes.
So, okay, I was about to tell you a fun story.
Okay.
So, when I was in high school, I was in the Magic Club and stuff, and I got really into card throwing.
Okay.
And I wanted to break his record, which I watched the video, I was like, oh, I think I could do that. And I kept getting,
It was like 400 feet or something, right?
Yeah.
300 and some feet?
Yes, basically like that.
Yeah.
Somewhere around there. I can't remember what it was. But I was about 10 yards short of this, and I just could not do it. But that extra 10 yards is like...
You really can throw
impossible.
a card that far?
I can throw a card like you have not seen before.
I got to see this later.
I haven't done it in years, because every time I do it, my arm is like toasted for like a couple days.
Yeah.
Because I haven't played baseball since I was in high school, but I was a pitcher growing up. So I hate to say it, but one of my friends that I was performing with, who was like, dude, hit that seagull over there. And we were like performing in an arena show, and I'm like, in my head, I'm like, okay, there's no way I'm gonna hit this seagull. It's like 100 feet away. I throw this card, kills the seagull, and I felt so bad.
So you're not only far, but you're accurate with them too.
I'm extremely accurate with these cards.
Did you ever like cut bananas and stuff? Did you do?
Oh, easy.
That's so crazy. I'm always.
I used to go to like, when I would go to like Starbucks or something like that.
Yeah.
I would get. They have stacks of gift cards, and I would just grab those cards because the credit cards are way funner to throw because they have a little bit of weight to them.
Yeah.
And you can throw them outside, like a playing card. If there's any sort of bit of wind, you can't throw the card because it catches the wind.
I did know that. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I got more into the manipulation of the cards and things like that. Yeah. Even like, something like back palm. Like if you learn. This is called, this is a basic back palm right here.
Yep.
So if something like this, at first you learn the technique of it. And then you learn the grip.
Yeah.
And then everyone's hand is different. I have these big Fred Flintstone fingers and thumbs. So it's my grip is a little different than, someone else's. But yeah, and then once you get the technique right to hold the card so that, look at this, we're exposing tricks to the people at home. Once you get it right and smooth, you can add other elements in to make things look like they should.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, just like anything, it takes practice. But I've always been more involved in the manipulation of the cards than the throwing. But I'm fascinated by people that can throw cards. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always have my metal credit cards from Amex in my card.
Yeah.
In my wallet. I'm like, if someone fucks with me, I'm gonna fucking nail them in the head with this metal card.
Probably sever their head off.
That would fuck someone up if they got hit with a metal credit card.
Yeah.
I've hit people with cards before, and it always cuts them, and I always feel really bad. But I was like a little shit when I was younger. I was a skate park kid.
Right.
We would throw. I knew that I couldn't throw it directly at someone, but I used to like to go to the mall, and people would be like a couple hundred feet away, and I would throw it up to where I knew it would catch the wind somewhere around there, and then cards would just like float on people, and they'd be like, "What the hell is this?"
That's funny.
It was a random thing that me and like every other scooter rider in the world got super into at some point.
That's cool.
All learned how to throw cards, and
it
was nonstop getting.
I always say
cards.
everyone when they're young too is to a certain extent interested in magic. I was just one of the dorks that stuck with it. I guess I don't know why or how, but I was just one of the dorks that kept it going. So
What's the hardest part about being on tour? What gets exhausting first?
I guess the old saying. I don't know. If people watching have ever heard this, but I'm sure you have. It's I always say you don't pay me to perform, you pay me to travel and set up. Mm-hmm. Have you heard that? Because it's the performing. Yes, it's difficult and it's grueling, but getting to your next location on time, being set up, being ready, and being prepared is really truly the hardest part. Because a lot of times you don't know where you're going to be. And in a perfect world, if I had a residency at the Luxor or something and I had my own theater, I would know where everything is. I would know where the audience is going to be. But sometimes you show up and you're anxiety ridden because they go, oh, we had a spot for you, but your spot's not level, or we only have one set of bleachers for the audience. Now you're going to have people standing, watching, or whatever it may be. So usually the first day of setting up and getting ready is the most stressful part. But once you're rolling, it's all good. But I guess the hardest part would be that, or just missing home in general. I miss my family at home, and it just becomes grueling. Yeah. I've been in Florida since January 5th, I think.
That long?
I haven't been home.
Doing shows?
After here, I go to Georgia, and I'll be at the Columbia County Fair in Georgia, and then after that one, I get to go home. And then I have a couple private shows in Pittsburgh. But that'll be a little bit of time off, though.
Were you born and raised in Pittsburgh?
Yeah, north of Pittsburgh, Newcastle, Pennsylvania. But I moved to the city, and I've been living in Pittsburgh ever since. And I fell in love with the South, though, so I ended up getting a place in Georgia, Evans, Georgia, just outside of Augusta. Yeah. So I do have a place there, too, that I use as a kind of a passing-through point because I do a lot of shows in South Carolina and Georgia. So it's nice to have a spot there that's, rather than if I have a gap in my calendar between one fair and another, and I'm in Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, I can always go there to my place, because rather than driving 20 hours 21 hours back to Pittsburgh.
Do you ever end up in the West Coast?
Only, I've worked the Magic Castle before, but and I've worked some private stuff in Vegas where you're from, but nothing like a residency or amusement park or anything like that. But when I wear out my welcome on the East Coast, I will probably make my way over there and do some fairs. But, I always say if I got 200 days, there's only 365 in the year, so
yeah,
I need a little bit of time off. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Do you what's like your downtime usually?
June.
June is your downtime?
June. I have nothing in June. That's
Really?
usually a slow month. And some of May, all of June, and December actually. Even though I do some holiday parties. I do some holiday parties all around Pittsburgh, but they're all one-offs. They're sporadic. A company party here, corporate event, that sort of thing. But that would be the most time off I have. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So. It's nice though. I mean, I like staying busy, and I'm in no position to be retiring right now, and I'm living my dream. So are you, right?
I love it. Yep.
Yeah.
Can't complain. Anything else you want to touch on?
No, not at all. I appreciate you having me on. This was a lot of fun, and yeah, I had a great time. Cool. So hopefully you were amazed by the trick, and
yeah, it's pretty crazy actually.
We got shows to do tonight, so
yep,
we're gonna go amaze some people.
Cool. Everyone can find you at TJ Hill Magician?
Magician TJ Hill on Instagram, Hill. Or if you just Google my name, TJ Hill, there's all sorts of videos and cool stuff that pop up. So
cool.
Yeah.
Thanks. All right, make sure you guys subscribe. We'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye, everyone.
That concludes this episode of the Off Axis Podcast. If you guys found value in this, please consider sharing with your friends. Also, subscribe, and we will see you guys in the next episode. Bye, everyone.